Knights at the Round Table, a round table discussion on speculative fiction books and film. So hi everybody, and welcome to the next episode of Knights at the Round Table. Today we are discussing the Tamil cinema epic Bãhubali, The Beginning, premiered in 2015,
yes.
And I'm sitting at the table with Marjolaine and with Sue, and I'd like to start with general impressions of the film. Sue, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I loved it. It's been, so, tiny bit of backstory. When I was in high school, I had a friend who is part of an Indian family, and I would go to her place to study, and her dad would regularly rent old school, like, Indian movies. And so there were a lot of times where we would be studying, and I'd be looking at the TV like, translate, what is happening right now? And so I've watched like a handful of Indian movies previously to this. And I found that I really enjoyed this film. It was a lot of fun. It was great. It was everything I wanted in an Indian film. It was just perfect.
Marjolaine?
I really didn't like the movie.
This is going to be a great panel!
I went in it mostly to completely blind, and I don't have any kind of experience in Indian cinema other than the odd Bollywood thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I figured I might as well give it a try, and the more I watched the movie, the less I liked it, and the more angry I got at it.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah, I got mad at one point. It was like, Jesus Christ. So yeah, no, I didn't like it.
Wow.
On the other end, the same side of the spectrum as Sue, I love this movie. On the second time viewing it, though, I noticed a few more things. So the first time I watched it because my Kung Fu brother Jerry, posted a clip of the major battle scene of that movie on Facebook. And I lost my mind. I'm like, I have to watch this movie! This scene is incredible!
Yep.
It's beautiful! What? And then I went and searched up the movie, found it, watched it, loved it, with the exception of one part that really bothered me a lot.
Yes.
And now, it still bothers me on second viewing, and there's also another thing that irked me a little bit, but on the whole, I loved this movie. It was fun. I enjoyed the characters. I really loved the music.
Yes. Oh my god.
I want that soundtrack. And yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. It was very long.
Yes, it was longer than perhaps it should have been, which might have been more of my biggest gripe, was that flashback scene.
Could have been its own movie.
It was epic. It was so well done, but you consider that Indian cinema is not the same as like Americanized or Canadian cinema. So what we have for flashbacks are much shorter, much more to the point, and this was its own thing. It was massively long, but it was so amazingly done that I didn't care. You know, like, and just tactically it was really brilliant too.
Oh yeah, watching the military tactics, God. I'm like, oh, that's good. Yeah. Oh, I like that.
Mm-hmm. Sonia was surprised we watched this together. She was surprised because there's this one moment where they're in the epic battle, and he wraps the guy up in a rope and pulls him up, and he goes to the top of the flag post and then whips it, and the guy goes flying, and I'm like, that is my favorite scene in the whole movie. Like, you used him as a flag and then threw him into the army. It was perfect.
Alternatively, my favorite scene of the whole movie is right at the beginning, when Shiva, at the bottom of the mountain, his mother is trying to get him to behave himself, and he just won't. And so he appeals to his father, who approaches Shiva's mother, and he says her name, and she goes, "What?" And he just turns around and just walks away. And I'm just like, yeah.
The thing that I really love about this film is that all of the women are badass.
They are, yeah.
She's holding, like, at the beginning of the movie, she is running from guys that are chasing her, and she ends up in the water, arrow in her back. She did she pull it out?
Yep.
Yeah, she
killed
pulls
the guy
it out,
with it.
and then that's right, she did. And she's holding a baby this whole time. Runs into the water, holds up, like does this prayer thing to the top of the mountain, right? And so I'm assuming that she basically dies.
Oh,
at
yeah,
the end
she's
of
dead.
that.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
she's dead.
So she's there, and so they're just like, we'll just take this baby out of this hand that's there.
Sticking up
But
out of the water.
before that, she grabs like one of the soldiers' swords and kills like 10 of them at least while holding this baby in her arm, and I'm like, God damn, woman. Like,
Yeah, so that opening scene, it opens with this woman with an arrow in her back. She's beautifully dressed with lots of gold about her, so she's obviously a woman of import. She has an arrow in her back. She's running away, and then as she's crossing a river, she turns back to look, and there are lights in the tunnel that she just came out of. So she backtracks. She steps in her own bloodied footprints, backtracks so that they'll lose her track. Ends up pulling out the arrow that was in her back, and kills these 2 guards, hits one with the arrow in the neck, steals a sword from the other guy, slashes his throat while holding a baby.
yeah.
And you find out in the flashbacks, not the first time that she's killed anybody while
holding a baby. It was just so
I loved her
epic.
character
Oh yeah.
very much. Yeah.
Very
The
strong.
Queen Mum.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was good.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's hilarious that she was the one ruling the kingdom
Yes.
after the death
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the flashbacks.
Yeah. In
Right.
lieu of the baby born. See, that did confuse me a little bit, because she was the husband of the elder brother who wasn't chosen to. So he was the cripple.
Yeah.
And he wasn't chosen to rule the country. And then the wife of the king died in childbirth, leaving
Right.
behind a son. So then she had 2 boys,
Yes.
and she claimed them both as her son.
yeah.
It confused me a little bit how they did succession there, but I mean,
Yeah. And I think that was probably why I was just looking at that flashback scene. Like I remember looking over like, is this still a flashback? Like what is happening?
I don't
here?
understand.
Like,
yes, no, it's
what?
just the hero looks exactly like his father. That's all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right down to the hair.
Yeah,
Like
and the moustache.
yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. I like how incredibly corny points in this movie gets there's this one point where I noticed when he flexed the bracelet thing goes flying, and I'm just like, oh my god.
Yeah, that was pretty bad, but also pretty hilarious. I mean, it did make me. I was watching.
And
I
like
was,
5 seconds before that, when he rips off his shirt.
yeah, for
I was
no
thinking,
reason.
yeah, unnecessary shirt ripping is
I
unnecessary.
know. Yeah, I mean, so unnecessary. Now, granted, I didn't mind.
No, neither did I. I was like, thank you for appreciating the women
The
audience.
female
Thank you. I
gaze.
appreciate.
Yeah, he was built nicely.
Yeah.
Like, dude.
And I liked his character. He did a lot of
Well,
cute,
That's what
like touching.
it's one of
I
the
think
things
he had-
like.
he didn't have much of a character to me. He had no motivations. He had no reason to do any of the things that he was doing.
Well,
He was pulled by the plot.
No,
I mean, yes.
I want to say that the whole reason why he needed to get to the top of the mountain was because he was being called constantly.
Well, that's kind of what I mean.
But I feel like that wasn't what really made some of this stuff was still going to happen anyways. Like there was still going to be the woman trapped, the queen trapped in the center. There was still going to be some epic revolt of some kind. Like there was still going to be the giant ass ridiculous statue.
yeah. So the way I look at it, it's very clearly styled after myth. In a lot of myth, destiny is what pulls a character one way or the other. So it's kind of that idea for me. Although I do think sort of the call of home was really what sent him climbing the mountain all the time. And then he saw a pretty face in a wooden mask somehow, and then was like, "That's it! The power of Boner is strong! I am climbing this thing!" And away he went.
Oh, it's true.
It worked for me though, because I was viewing it as like watching a myth unfold, like somebody sitting by a fireplace telling you, "Let me tell you the story of this legendary man who, I don't know, could climb a mountain in 2 days and was apparently a fighting legend, despite having been brought up in a very peaceful village. Like, what the?
And despite falling off of that
Oh my
mountain
God.
like 100 times. I'm like,
From 100
Jesus
feet
Christ.
up, he would not be alive.
No, he wouldn't. I'm like, and you're dead.
Yeah. Well, he's not going to survive that. Oh, look, he survived.
Without a scratch.
Plot armor is the best armor.
It's true though, but that's that's part of the reason why it's included in the bowl. This is not fantasy in the way that you would imagine fantasy in the Western sense. It's fantasy in the same way that Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is fantasy.
Yeah.
A man probably couldn't wrestle a bull that size in real life, but in this movie, yeah, totes can.
Yeah.
And they make a point of showing that the men from the kingdom of what is it, Matishmati?
It's something like
Something
that,
like
yeah.
Matishmati, I think it was.
I didn't write it down.
Were incredibly strong. Like when this kid was a baby and he grasped his aunt's hand, she couldn't get him to let go. Like he was so strong.
More than babies today. You know,
Yeah.
they were tough
Super
babies.
strong. And then they show it again with him ripping up the shrine that had been carved from rock and dumping it underneath the waterfall.
Yeah. And
To
says,
spare
"There."
his mother from collecting 101 more jugs of water.
I thought that was really cool.
That was the whole, like, beads popping,
beads
shirt ripping scene for no reason. I mean, it was dumb. Honestly, it was dumb. I even know it was dumb, but at the same time, I'm like, hey, this is fun.
Yep.
And then the dancing.
Oh,
Right at the
yeah.
end.
He does, like... Well, he does that, but at some point he does, like, a weird victory dance.
Yeah.
Or maybe, yeah.
Yeah, like
And
when
I
he
just-
puts the shrine down and he made his mother happy, so he starts dancing.
So he starts dancing. I'm like, I love Indian movies. They just make me happy. Oh.
Yeah, just dancing for no reason. I'm like, meh, why not?
At that point, what else could you add to the scene?
At that point, you know, the beads have come off, he's ripped up a shrine, like, anything goes. Fell down a waterfall and didn't crack his head and die. Yeah. Yeah, it was great. I already mentioned the music.
I was gonna go with the tree toboggan, which was hilarious.
Oh, yeah!
I'm immediately thinking about all Canadians have almost died doing tobogganing.
So he in order to save him and his love, which I'll get to later because that's one of the things that bugged me, from an avalanche, he rips off half the
tree.
well, half the bark off a tree and uses it as a toboggan to slide down. And I was watching this with Sue the second time because up until that point I had not seen Willow, and then I had seen Willow, and then I was watching this with Sue and I'm like, geez, I wonder if the director of this film ever watched Willow. Because it's kind of exactly the same thing. Like,
and it's funny because that scene I was reminded of Triple X with Vin Diesel, where there's that giant, you know,
avalanche and
avalanche
he's on the
thing.
skidoo.
Yeah.
So there were a couple of things that really bothered me about this film. Not the random dancing, not the random singing, because these are things that I expect from Indian cinema. I did not like the whole Shiva makes an what's her name?
This is her name.
Avantika fall in love with him scene because it felt so rapey.
Yes.
Really?
Oh,
yes.
That was really cute.
She was fighting him off every step of the way.
Yeah, she was fighting him every step of the way until she saw her own reflection because he had somehow painted on her makeup beautifully while they were fighting. It bugged me. It really did bug me because it did feel super rapey. But the stuff leading up to that was kind of weird, charming stalker.
Yeah, like, it was just, you know, he does the little thing
tattoo on her arm without her permission.
Which gets her in trouble.
Which gets her in trouble. On her shoulder without her permission. I mean, it turned into a cutesy thing while they were dance fighting / falling in love.
No.
At the end, but I didn't appreciate that. It felt super rapey and it made me uncomfortable both times watching it. And the other time that bugged me, but then also made me laugh later because I caught something that I didn't catch the first time, was holy blackface Batman! In the fight scene, right at the end, the big battle scene, all the bad guys are painted dark, and you can tell on some of them that they're painted. Which I picked up on second time viewing, not the first time viewing. And then
I didn't catch that they were darker, but I didn't realize it was paint.
Yeah, because there's one guy who looked very European that was painted dark. And then there was one guy who had a bald spot that that the makeup artists neglected. And you see him in only one shot, but he's all dark with black hair and then like a pale spot right here. And you only see it in the one shot and only very much in passing. And I saw it and I went,
Wow. No, I completely missed that. That's funny because the only thing that really pissed me off about her character, like, she was also very badass and...
Are you talking about Avantika?
Yeah. The thing that I just was very confused about was at some point, her and Shiva had talked and said, well, I'm going to go with you and help you in this oath that you have taken to save the queen. She is like, okay, and they decide to do it together, and then they get attacked, and he's the one that does all of the fighting, and she's off screen somewhere doing nothing, and I'm like, why wasn't she fighting there? Every other scene she was fighting.
She was fighting.
Except for that one.
Wounded in the leg when they were running away.
Oh, that might have been one.
Well,
but that's
even
that's
before.
not
They
sufficient.
started fighting before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, she could have contributed.
Yeah, she
There
could
was
have,
no
but
excuse for her
didn't
not to.
because
Exactly.
Hero... Yeah, that's another thing that's quite bothersome is... it's a trope that I hate in almost all fantasy, where badass woman falls in love with hero and then is suddenly useless because hero can't be heroic unless he's so much better than everybody else, which is bullshit. I don't like it.
And, like, other than that one scene that I can recall that she didn't do the fighting, all of the other ones, she was fine. So...
Yeah, in her introduction, she was facing a greater amount of soldiers, and she just
I loved her
she
introduction.
calls, somebody throw me a sword, and then she starts...
Yeah, and then she starts kicking ass. Yeah. And not only does she kick ass, but when she's walking through and killing off the rest of the wounded, I'm like, ooh, that is cold. I like you.
Yeah.
I liked her very much, except for in those scenes where she fell in love and is suddenly useless. Not cool. She's a beautiful woman. Holy mackerel.
Oh, yeah.
So gorgeous.
Definitely. It's very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Because I think part of the whole purpose of that scene was because, you know, he's saying, like, I see you, but do you really see you? And so I think the whole objective was for her to really see what kind of person she really is.
Because clearly
An Indian Barbie is what she was.
No, she was kick-ass on top of it. Like,
yeah,
Barbie
but
is
also
not
beautiful.
kick-ass.
I mean, she can be. Once you get past the whole, like, 90s, math is hard. She's an astronomer now. You need math for that. But anyway, I kind of see where you're going, where you're coming from, but honestly, I don't know. The whole thing just sat ill with me. I didn't like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. I'm going to...
I did like when she put him out. She grabbed that flower like it was chloroform and made him go to sleep.
That
made
was
me
really
happy.
funny. Yeah. I was like, very clever.
Yep.
Just do.
Yep. Yeah, so there's not a lot that makes me grumble about this movie. There's a lot of it that is quite typical to Indian cinema. It doesn't have as much random singing and dancing as Bollywood films do. Yep. Like, they're not halfway through a battle and then suddenly pretty girls, scantily clad, jump out from behind boulders and start doing a dance. Like, that doesn't happen in this movie.
Yeah.
And the battle scene still blows me away.
The battle scene was amazing.
Oh, it's
and I love how tactically they tried to pull we're just going to have cannon fodder and pull out, like, all of the women and put them in front, and so all of the army stops.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this should be interesting. I wonder what they're gonna do here. And then they get through that whole thing without killing any of the women, which was awesome.
This is an excellent example of using an action piece to display character development or character. So there are two cousins, both in line for the throne. May the best man win is essentially the way it works. And so the goal is to kill this chieftain who is attacking Matishmati.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm good. Sure, the kingdom of that. So as part of their defense to stop the soldiers from breaching the wall, they bring out villagers that they've captured, and one prince just goes, well, fuck it. plows straight through them, killing tons. And the other one is like, not gonna happen, and they use boluses, which, by the way, the use of the bolus in this made me so happy.
Yes.
They used boluses to take them down so that they could jump over them
Yep.
and attack the army that way.
Yeah.
Which, anyway, good guy, bad guy. Jeez, I wonder who they are.
And it was great because after that, she was like, I have to pick a leader, and a leader, well, yes, means that you can kill your enemy. A true leader also remembers his people.
Yeah.
And therefore, she's like, he is going to be the king. You are just a soldier.
Also, it was the cripple guy that suggested killing the enemy would be the way to prove the king, and she never vocally agrees.
She never vocally agreed. Yeah.
Yep.
So I like that because it displays that not only was she tough as anything, she was also very, very wise, which is nice in female characters because you don't get that an awful lot in these kind of epics.
Yeah.
This was the Queen Mother, by the way. I had a point, and it vanished. I lost it.
To go in the same scene, I also really liked where Shiva, I'm pretty sure it was Shiva, turned around and said, cowardice on the battlefield is death, because at some point they were all going to retreat.
Yeah, they were running away.
No.
Yeah.
So on top of the I'm going to save the people, he also did like a quick epic speech to get the army to keep moving forward.
And that's how you know who the hero is. He does the epic speech in the battle.
Yep.
I liked his so the same guy played father and son. So it was the same actor who played the son who is climbing up the mountain and then getting into all of this trouble. Played the prince who was later chosen to become king, but doesn't end up that way. I'll tell you about that later. Second movie. And then as the son, his character is really quite mischievous. And I liked that. It's nice having a hero who is not, I am big man surly. I am strong and I kill lots of people and that's how you know I am hero. In this one, he was like light-hearted and funny. It was more Monkey King and less Hercules.
Yes.
So I really enjoyed that because he was a brat.
Oh yeah.
And it was cute rather than sort of the weird intimidating idea that we have about heroes. In our movies, most of the time.
That falling in love, big quote unquote, scene was the one thing, and it more or less killed the movie for me. Like, I was sort of, okay, not like, yeah, whatever, let's just roll along. Not in love with it, but not hating it. And when I hit that scene, I was like, okay, no.
No, can't do it.
Yeah, that was the wall. Also, the fake CGI was weird at times.
Oh my god! Okay, you ruined it for me.
Okay, so I noticed in the film every time there was an animal that was included that was doing stunts or was CGI, they had a little thing that said CGI in the corner. It popped up every single time. Not for every CGI shot, only when animals were involved. And it was, I think, maybe it's an Indian film standard that they do that so that people know that the animals are not being tortured, that's not really real.
There was the screen, the no animals were harmed.
There
was. The beginning.
Yeah. At the beginning.
That's another thing that made me super apprehensive about the movie. Like, oh shit, why are they putting that?
Yeah, that's the other thing too. So in Western cinema, we've moved towards putting all of the credits at the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
In this one, a
all
good
the
chunk of them were at the beginning.
Yeah.
And that was a bit jarring at first.
Yeah. But then after she mentioned that there was that CGI thing in the corner, every time there was a scene, it was like immediately, I'm looking
CGI,
at that bottom corner.
You can see that little watermark. God damn it! Sonia, ruining films for everyone since always.
So funny.
Yeah, the CGI wasn't as good as we're used to, I suppose, would be the way to put it, when it came to animals.
Yeah.
But in the battle scenes, it was great.
It was epic.
Yeah.
Literally epic. Like, and I have to appreciate some of the realism too. You don't necessarily see this in movies, but one of the things that I caught was when one of the enemies had their head lopped off and the head goes flying. The body is still moving forward.
Oh yeah, the prince!
And it's still there for quite some time.
He still walks for quite some time before he just falls down.
Yes! The body can still go. Like, they've done studies where if you lop off the head, it still takes a bit of time before the body realizes it's dead.
They've estimated that the brain can actually function for about 30 seconds after being decapitated.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But
so
also
there's still
velocity.
things. Yeah, there's still neurons firing. They're just not reaching the brain. So your muscles are still twitching and walking and doing things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
it was funny to me.
Also, I can kill you with my brain. Sorry.
That's
yeah, it was
fantastic.
great. And the end scene, the cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I was surprised.
I watched this movie in early 2016, and the cliffhanger happened, and then I'm like, but what happens next, damn it! And it wasn't released the second movie wasn't released in India, cinema in India until 2016, later on in the year. I think it was around August, if I remember rightly. I was following this movie. Like, I needed to know. And yeah, so it took forever for me to figure out, to get to the second movie.
Yeah, I want to watch the second movie.
It's
I was
going in the bowl.
almost going to tell you, just put on the second movie.
Yeah, but it's
I really want to.
3 hours later. It's a long film.
No, it is. I saw that. I'm like 2:45. Oh, I don't know if I have time for
Yeah,
this.
no time. So we watched.
Yeah,
another
so
movie
the last thing I was gonna say is I really love the choreography. Like, the dance choreography in this was brilliant.
And costuming
And
scenery.
costuming.
Oh my god! Oh,
Just there were
just
so
a
many
feast.
things about this that I really, really enjoyed. That I'm just like, I love Indian films. They're
Yeah.
great.
Same. So, final thoughts and star rating. Marjolaine, we'll start with you.
Well, I have to admit that it was pretty to look at. And, like, if you can look at it from the concept of it's a great myth and things happen because it's the great cosmic order or whatever, then I guess it's fine. I just can't connect with those kind of stories. They really bore me.
Yeah.
I prefer character-driven stories, and that's not what I was. And also the scene that was already discussed, and like, no, 1.5.
Ooh,
Jesus.
jeez.
Oh, Jesus.
Seriously, no, I did not enjoy this movie. And
At all. Okay. Sue?
I am like the complete opposite spectrum. I really loved so many things about this. It kind of brought back some memories, and it brought into focus like a lot of things that I wish we would get a little bit more of when it comes to like westernized films, is just a little bit more understanding instead of like glossed over stories, like slightly more fleshed out. That would be nice to see. And because of the music, because of the choreography and costuming, I would give it a 4.
Yeah, so a 3.5 for me, because that scene was so fucking rapey. And it really did not sit well with me at all. But the rest of the movie was stunning. I mean, even that scene was stunning to look at. It was just super uncomfortable. The music was gorgeous.
Yes.
I really want this soundtrack. The rest of the movie was brilliantly acted. It was really gorgeous to look at, and I really, 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 really love the character of Katapa, who gets much more development in the second movie. I haven't seen that too many times. Anyway, yeah, so 3.5 for me. It's a great film. It's way better than a lot of Western films that I've seen, despite it being almost 3 hours long.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. All right, who wants to pick the next one?
Okay. I will go. Go with, what are you? Ruby Sparks.
2012. I know nothing about this movie.
Never even heard of it.
Nope. So that's what. Nope, haven't heard of it. So that's what we'll be watching for the next movie. Yeah, okay.
I don't know what this is.
None of us have any idea.
Nope, never even heard of it. 2012, Ruby Sparks. If you have any thoughts about Bãhubali the beginning, leave them down in the comments below. I often lurk and reply. And we will be getting to the second one because I'm going to be putting it in the bowl myself. Because I really love this series of movies. So yeah, thanks very much for watching, guys. Like and subscribe if you feel like it, and we'll see you later. Bye!
Alright, I'll stop.
Kill Sue!